This is episode 65 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. The Bengals had a quick turnaround this week, so they'll have already played their game by the time this episode comes out, but I'll be at the game, so I'll record a reaction for you guys tomorrow night after the game's played, and we'll put it at the end of the main segment so you can get a little bit of a quick reaction. We won't really talk a lot about the game, like we won't really recap it like we normally do until the normal recap episode, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a quick reaction so that we can add that into the game. The Browns headed to Minnesota this week to play a Vikings team that seems to be so much better than we all thought in week one. You know, when they had all those fumbling issues and we weren't sure if the Bengals defense was legit or not. Well, now we know that the Bengals defense is legit. Now we know that the Vikings are a pretty good team. So we'll preview that a little bit. Finally, Steelers fans around the country are having a collective heart attack, and I am loving every single second of it. Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Clark were both on First Take this week, and they look so sad. What? The Steelers are so bad, and I am fucking loving it. Let's go. Because why, Thomas?
Because the Steelers still indeed suck.
Take that, Stephen A. Smith. you know when you said that about Mason Rudolph, you were like, this dude's a Confederate soldier, and the second I looked at the picture, I'm like, holy crap. Perfect.
I just I knew the podcast started. We're gonna be on new platforms and everything. So I knew I had to come out with like some video just to chop at the bit. Just to chop at the bit. I had to.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
So what are you drinking today, Thomas?
Well, today I'm just drinking a good old fashioned Coca-Cola.
The non-alcoholic kind.
Yeah, I gotta, just some good old caffeine, sugar, all that shit is bad for you.
Yeah, awful. I stopped drinking pop because it was doing bad things to me.
There's a lot of bad things to you, right? It's your teeth. It's not really good for you. It helps you get diabetes.
He says
that tastes good.
I mean, it does taste good. I'll give you that. Although, actually, ever since I stopped drinking pop, I'll be honest, I don't really like it anymore. Like Mountain Dew was my big thing. I was a big fan of Mountain Dew, and now every time I drink Mountain Dew, it just tastes like it's like cloyingly sweet. It's just like ugh, it's disgusting. I am drinking a Bud. Whoa, okay, there's my camera. For those who are listening to the audio version, we also have a YouTube version where you can see visuals of things.
Visuals? So check our YouTube channel.
I have to say that now because we're on all the platforms. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, know that also we have you can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts now and find our podcast. And it's really cool. This dumb idea that me and Thomas had 2 years ago is turning into a legit thing now, and it's just awesome. I love it.
It is pretty cool.
But anyway, I'm drinking a Bud Light Lime today, mainly because we're not really going to be doing much with the Bengals today, other than one really little tiny thing. So I'm just kind of vibing here, and Bud Light's a vibe.
What's great is that I'm always the one drinking a Bud Light.
Yeah, right.
But I'm always drinking Bud Light Orange. You're drinking a Bud Light Lime. Why didn't you just get a Bud Light Orange?
I like lime better.
But why aren't you supporting me? Why aren't you supporting my Bud Light Orange movement?
Because
my Twisted Tea
movement. you wear the wrong color orange, Thomas. Needs to be like a darker, more redder orange.
Right now I'm wearing blue.
You got Not
I'm just got a nice little roller coaster shirt on. It's one of my favorite roller coasters at Cedar Point.
I'm saying your hat has the wrong color orange on it.
Oh, my hat?
Yeah.
My hat just has a helmet on it.
I know, but the color is the wrong color of orange.
How can orange be wrong?
That color of orange is wrong. See the correct.
I'm just trying to figure out how can an orange be correct or right or wrong.
Well, I'm just saying if you look on the screen right here, this is the correct color orange right here.
Why? Because your orange is slightly darker than ours.
Yes,
and it got stripes.
Well,
it makes it correct.
What makes it correct is the fact that it's the Bengals orange.
By the way, I love the Browns uniforms last week with the numbers on the helmet. At first, I wasn't feeling it, but then Myles Garrett had freaking 5 sacks, 4.5 to be exact, but freaking 5 sacks.
That's how you break in a uniform. I mean, honestly.
You know, when I came with a podcast last week, I said Myles Garrett broke a record, and I just said it. I didn't actually look it up. I just went off the top of my head. It was like, there's no way that's not a record. There's just no way you just have 4.5 sacks and just break a record of some kind.
That's probably true.
This Coke was really good.
All right. So I guess let's go ahead and start with the Browns preview.
Okay.
Facing off against a kind of dangerous looking Vikings team right now.
Didn't
like I said, didn't really think that was going to be the case going into the season. Definitely didn't think that was going to be the case after they lost to the Bengals in a pretty sloppy fashion. But since then, the Vikings have looked like they're pretty good, and it looks like, hey, maybe instead of the Vikings being bad and losing to a bad team like the Bengals, maybe the Bengals are a good team and beat the Vikings, who are also a good team. But so far, the Vikings look pretty good.
Yeah, the Vikings probably should have won that game against the Cardinals. They just kind of fell short against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray and them look really good. But them smacking the Seahawks, that was pretty impressive. So I mean, they're coming into the game 1-2, but they don't really feel like a 1-2 team. Actually, they feel like a way better than a 1-2 team. This is actually a really good team, man. Cousins been looking really good. You got to give it to him.
Think about it from this perspective. If Dalvin Cook hadn't fumbled the ball, which is not what you expect out of Dalvin Cook, then they would have beaten the Bengals. If Greg Joseph, the Vikings kicker, had converted the field goal at the end of regulation against the Cardinals, they would have beaten the Cardinals. So they're literally not just like, this is a better 1-2 team than you think. No, the Vikings are literally 2 plays away from being a 3-0 team right now. So I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking them because of their record, but in reality, this Vikings team has been keeping up in every game they've been playing. They just got really unlucky on 2 separate plays. And
the Vikings get better as the season goes on. So this is a very scary team. This is a very scary game for the Browns. So the Browns shouldn't go in this game thinking that it's going to be a walkthrough. This is a very tough team. That offense is looking real tough. That defense still don't really scare me that much.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked good against the Seahawks, but they look good because the Seahawks does not look good on offense last week.
Did not particularly look good against the Arizona Cardinals. Now,
exactly
looked pretty decent against the Cincinnati Bengals, but this was also a Week 1 Cincinnati Bengals where Joe Burrow was playing his first legitimate game action since injuring his knee. And I know he had those 3 snaps in the preseason, but other than that, we just saw Joe Burrow starting to get into a rhythm against the Steelers in Week 3.
So with that said, the Vikings do have some games. They do have the Lions, the Panthers, and and the Cowboys after they play the Browns and Ravens. So their schedule do kind of lighten up a little bit. They did have a tough draw at the beginning of the season, but I just don't think. I'm honestly for the Browns. I think the Browns have an advantage defensive wise. I think for the key to this game is just going to be, can the Browns defense build upon what they did last week? Now, obviously, they're not going to have 9 sacks against the Vikings like they did against the Bears. That's going to be very hard to impossible to do twice.
Not 9, but I don't think that the Vikings offensive line is exactly like Pro Bowl caliber or anything like that. So.
I was talking to somebody. Somebody was telling me, why would you leave? Why didn't they try and double team or try and block Myles Garrett so heavily? Well, because you have Jadeveon Clowney on the other side. That's the whole point of getting Clowney on his team anyway. And Clowney's not a bad player. He just had excuse me, he just had injury history.
Well, he's had
so,
injury issues. He's had inconsistency issues too.
Yeah.
Now,
So
you
but
could
he
attribute that to the injuries because he hasn't really been able to get into a rhythm. But still,
but when he's on the field, he's productive.
right. It's fair.
And that's the whole thing. And he had a couple sacks last week, which was really good. And then you got Takk McKinley. He's contributing, and that's anything you got. Takk McKinley's a plus because
that's true because you paid nothing to get him.
Yeah, and you're getting stuff out of him. He's playing. He's contributing. He's showing up. He's being a positive influence in the locker room. So you got to be happy with that.
That is one thing Bengals fans were desperately hoping for last year. Now we don't need him because our defensive line is doing great. But last year, with the defensive line in the state that it was, we were really hoping Takk McKinley would work out, and then there was the medical issue, and that ended up not happening. But yeah, he's got talent. He just he's just had a series of roadblocks that he needs to get over. Maybe the Browns can unlock him. We'll see.
Well, I think what it all is just I think at this point it's just I think the defense right now is Myles Garrett and everybody else. You know what I mean? And like I love our secondary. I love JLK. Pro Football Focus have a really good grade on JLK, and they have a really good grade on Grant Delpit, and they have a really good grade on John Johnson and all them boys.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think the biggest thing is Myles Garrett never had this much help on defense before in his life.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see is I think all of our defense, we have a good defense this year, but I think what's going to happen is I think the defense is going to help out Myles Garrett because Kevin Stancy said that Myles Garrett's their best player. I think we're about to see Myles Garrett's best season so far. I think we're going to see a career season for Myles Garrett. I think that if Myles Garrett make it to the Hall of Fame, this is going to be a season that he circles. That's a season I think we're in store for Myles Garrett. That man, because one thing we didn't talk about on this podcast, Myles Garrett did have some words to say about the defense and how he felt like the defense didn't step up the first couple of weeks, and he stepped up. And now that he has better coverage downfield, now that he has a Janavion Clowney on the other side, now you have a Grant Delpit again in that box. Now that he has a JLK, now that he has a John Johnson that could be a better corner, and now you have a Rodney Harris. He has so much help on his defense now. Now he can just focus on being a sack leader.
Right. And
now he could be plugged into that role, and now he can take on a bigger role than he ever did. And I think we're just going to see a really good season from Myles Garrett. Not just a good game, but a really good season from Myles Garrett.
It might be a little early to start talking about Myles Garrett and the Hall of Fame.
It is. No, I'm not. I said if.
I know you're not saying that he's going to the Hall of Fame.
I'm saying
I'm saying like, to say that like this would be the season that we talk about if he goes to the Hall of Fame. Well, let's wait and see if he even lasts a while in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm saying that if he makes the Hall of Fame, I think this season will be a season that he talks about.
Definitely, I think it could be a career year for him for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going to make the Hall of Fame. I'm being real careful about it. Being real careful about it. I'm not saying he's definitely going to be a Browns Hall of Famer. That's for sure. So that's the defense. But moving on to offense. Oh, by the way, it's worth mentioning that Greg Newsome might not go this week. The Browns' first round pick. He's been doing good, but it looks like he's hurt. But going on offense for the Browns. Now this is a lot of fun for the Browns. I think that you're playing against a really good offense in the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing against people like Cousins, Jeffries. You playing against a good running back. I don't think Devin Cook is going to go, but the backup running back for the Vikings has been playing well. So this Vikings offense has been showing everybody that they can score. So this is going to be the best offense the Browns have played all year. The second best offense the Browns played all year. I forgot we played Kansas City. Can't before you give me a look. So this is going to be the second best offense they played all year. So it's not the Chiefs, it's not the Texans. It's not the Texans, it's not the Bears, where you don't have to worry about them scoring every drive. These are the Vikings who can score on you any given moment.
That's true.
So with that said, Baker Mayfield is going to have to pass the ball more this game. It's going to be a game where Baker Mayfield is going to have to pass the ball more than 20 times, more than likely. Now I you can't control the game with Kareem Hunt and Chubb, but Baker Mayfield is going to have to take some more shots down the field this game. So I'm really excited to see Baker Mayfield kind of unleash himself onto his offense this year. He's the Browns, they could take turns on who gets to have a game. Last game was Kareem Hunt. 2 games ago was Nick Chubb. This game could be a Baker Mayfield game on offense. And you got Jarvis Landry, he's still out, but Odell Beckham looked good. He looked like he wasn't. It didn't look like they were forcing the ball to Odell Beckham last game. So it looks like Odell Beckham's being plugged into the offense pretty well. Alex Hooper and Baker Mayfield seems to finally start to click more. It seems like they have a better relationship than they did last year. You still got Newsome and Bryant. Not Newsome and Bryant. Njoku and Bryant. So you still have some great tight ends. So I'm really excited to see if Baker Mayfield could be a better passer this game and see how well Baker Mayfield could pass in the dome in Minnesota this game. So I think Baker Mayfield is going to. Not only do I want him to pass the ball more, I think that it might be necessity. It might be a necessity that Baker Mayfield make some of those dime passes and have at least 3 touchdown game because he might need it to beat this team.
He certainly could. To me, I think the biggest matchup, and you were talking about him earlier, but to me the biggest matchup in this game is going to be Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah versus Dalvin Cook. Because I know he fumbled against us, but other than that, Dalvin Cook is a special player, and he can dictate the tempo of a game if you're not careful. Now, if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah can, be the one who wins this matchup, because he's been looking pretty special himself. If he can be the one who wins this matchup, if the Browns can hold down Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw the ball a lot more. And when Kirk Cousins has a lot of volume, he tends to make mistakes. Now, he also gets a lot done. He's a very talented player, and you have to watch out for him when he's throwing the ball a lot. But at the same time, when he throws the ball a lot, there's going to be opportunities to cash in on mistakes that he makes.
So who's going to win the matchup between Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Dalvin Cook?
If I had to bet, I'd say Owusu-Koramoah probably. Probably going to win this matchup. I think. All right. I
just want an opportunity to use the horn.
You've been waiting to use that for a while.
I just wanted to use the horn because I just think that it would be a great addition to the podcast to start using the horn. Now that we've got all these new tools and all these new platforms.
So what were you gonna do?
We gotta use the horn. I'm sorry.
What were you gonna do if I had said Dalvin Cook?
I would have looked depressed.
Oh, that's fair.
But I gamble. It was a gamble. And it paid off.
Not to give away my pick in the predictions episode that we're going to be doing live later. I think the Browns probably should win this game. It's definitely not a slam dunk though. But like I said, if you can keep Dalvin Cook in check, and if, like I said, I think if Owusu-Koramoah can have a big game, then that could really be all you need right there. And Baker Mayfield having a big game certainly helps. But I think this, if you get it done on defense, it's over.
It is worth noting some of the injury reports for the Browns. You got J.C. Tretter and Judge Wills are both players who didn't practice last game. Who didn't practice. I think Judge Wills he's been sore all season on that ankle. I think J.C. Tretter should be fine. I'm hearing. I think they both should be ready. Should be good to go by the game. I'm kind of worried about Greg Newsome. Odell Beckham, he said that his shoulder popped out last game. He just popped it back in. I know he kind of joked about that, but that's kind of a deal when your shoulder kind of pops out. So hopefully he's okay going to the next game, but he should be good. Dalvin Cook, he looks like he's having some injury trouble, but he should be All reports say that there's a good chance that he'll play next game. So yeah.
All right. So real quick before we move on. I know we're not previewing anything because we already did the preview for the Bengals Jaguars game in the previous episode. Because such quick turnaround. This episode is not going to come out before the game, but I did want to focus a little bit on the injury report for the Bengals because that could, I think that possibly could provide some context after the fact in the game based on what happened.
You're still gonna beat them. You're still gonna beat them.
Well, if we don't, then there's problems. But
come on, man, you're playing
still,
Jacksonville.
Like win or loss, I think the injury report, rehashing the injury report a little bit might provide a little bit of context for what happened here. So, I think the biggest, most important news to me is the fact that Jackson Carman's starting again, because Xavier Su'a-Filo hasn't practiced all week. So Jackson Carman's going to get another opportunity to show that he deserves the full-time starting gig. And I think he did pretty well against Pittsburgh, but there were definitely some issues he needs to work on. So if he can come out and show at least some progress, like still play well in the areas that he played well in, and show consistency in that way, but show that, he recognizes some of the things he did wrong against Pittsburgh and can show some progress in those areas, I think the starting job is as good as his. So to me, that's a really, really important thing that I can't wait to see. I can't wait to break down. It might be part of my reaction video. Who knows? But I can't wait to break down just exactly how Jackson Carman performed. Just because we're at the very least, even if he performs badly, at least we're going to know what we're dealing with. But another, I guess, group of injuries I want to talk about is the secondary. So Jesse Bates listed as doubtful. Chidobe Awuzie. I call him Chidobe. I don't know. I think it's Chidobe, but I just said it quickly. But Jesse Bates and Chidobe Awuzie both listed as doubtful for this game and probably not going to play. So that's not ideal for the secondary. Now, you do have Trey Waynes expected to finally make his debut as a Cincinnati Bengal. Friggin' 20 games into actually signing a contract with us, he's finally making his debut. Isn't that just wonderful? But, hamstrings, you never really want to push him. And last year was kind of a lost year anyway. So, I guess you can't really be too mad. And we're not the ones who are paying the bill anyway. I guess Mike Brown's the one who has to worry about that part of it. But it's kind of unfortunate that he's coming back it works that he's coming back this week because we got secondary issues. So it's nice that Eli Apple doesn't have to be the number one starter, which would just be a disaster waiting to happen. Because
why you so down on Eli Apple, man?
Have you seen him play?
Hey man, look, take
Bengals fans.
Take a bite of the apple.
On Facebook have been railing me lately because I've just been so down on. Now, Bengals fans on Twitter agree with me, but Bengals fans on Facebook have been railing me lately because they're like, "Oh, Eli Apple's really good," and I'm like, "What game are you watching?"
That's what people on Facebook like to do. They like to rail people. People on Facebook like to rail each other.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, they kind of do on Twitter too, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a different crowd on Twitter or something. I don't know. But it's nice to have, and if Chidobe Awuzie can't play, it's nice to have Trey Waynes finally coming back, and then that kind of offsets the loss a little bit. But it's really unfortunate because I'm really looking forward to finally having all the pieces on defense all together at the same time. Because I've said that before on this podcast. That is the last weak spot on our defense right now is the second starting cornerback position because we've been playing Eli Apple, and Eli Apple's been doing things like pushing dudes out of bounds when the play's already over, or getting defensive pass interference penalties when there's absolutely no need for that, or just getting burnt toast constantly. He's a liability, regardless of whether you want to say he's got, talent or potential, or you're an Ohio State homer and you just want your guy to do well. The point is, Eli Apple has not performed consistently well as a starter, and that is a liability. And from what we've seen from Trey Waynes in camp, we're thinking he could be consistently decent, at least in the things that he's particularly good at. And then Chidobe Awuzie been doing great like during the season, so we know he's good. So that was the last thing you needed to shore up on the defense to make the defense like an elite unit, and just not like getting Trey Waynes back and then losing Chidobe Awuzie it feels like a tease.
When I was in college, I used to when I was trying to peer pressure people, I'd be like, "Hey, eat the apple, Eve, or eat the apple, Adam." It was like my way of peer pressuring people. I'm a very creative person in a lot of different ways. I peer pressure people that way. I'd be like, "Yo, come on, man, come drink with us. Eat the apple. Take a sip of this rum and coke or this Vegas bomb."
The one injury that I'm particularly kind of got my eye on. None of these injuries worry me as far as the Jags are considered, by the way. Like as long as our defensive line is still healthy and playing at the level our defensive line's playing, Trevor Lawrence is going to be tormented. And then I think even Eli Apple could hold down. As long as we have Trey Waynes to hold down DJ Chark, and then Eli Apple can probably go toe to toe with Marvin Jones, at least to a certain extent. I don't worry about that too much, but maybe after the game is played and you're listening to this and maybe I look like an idiot now. I don't know, but I don't think that's going to happen. But what I'm worried about is the fact that Jesse Bates and T. Higgins are listed on this injury report. T. Higgins is out. He's not playing. Jesse Bates, doubtful, most likely not going to play. And I guess
that's tough.
It is. And I don't think it's going to be a huge problem against the Jaguars because with T. Higgins, I'm not too worried about not having him because you still got Tyler Boyd. You still got Jamar Chase. And then I really feel good about the depth at wide receiver too because Auden Tate, I feel like is one of the best backup wide receivers, like true bench wide receivers. Auden Tate's probably one of the best true bench wide receivers in the NFL right now.
Okay.
And then Mike Thomas, Bengals seem to trust him. So you get those two doing things together. I think that could mostly make up for T. Higgins' impact, especially when you still have Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase. So I'm not really too worried about not having T. Higgins for this game. But I am kind of worried because, it's like everybody was playing off whatever injury. Like I didn't even know he had an injury going into this week, and then people are talking about the injury and they're playing it off as nothing, and then it just lingers and it lingers and it lingers and it lingers, and it makes you just wonder. It's just oh man, is T. Higgins going to have a long-term problem here? And I kind of worry about that with Jesse Bates too because he's got the neck injury. It's just I don't know, maybe he's just got whiplash or something. They're just trying to play it safe because it's a short turnaround week, and then they'll be back for Green Bay and it'll be fine. But it makes me a little nervous.
What we might be able to see, we might even see my favorite Bengals player, Chris Evans, make some plays tomorrow, or yesterday, whenever you're watching the podcast.
I don't know what Chris Evans has to do with T. Higgins.
He is a running back, but he's been catching passes.
Well, I mean, that's part of what he was brought in to do.
He's a little
pretty good blocks out there, by the way. So
I'm just saying, having a running back that could also catch adds versatility. Yeah. Now, let me stop talking. Let me stop talking before we lose all our stuff because he's stupid. But let me say this though. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to move on. So you.
No, I want to say. I do want to say this about the game though. All jokes aside. You're playing against a team with a rookie quarterback and Trevor Lawrence, who haven't really looked that good, and a rookie coach. Thursday night games are always challenging for rookie quarterbacks and rookie coaches. So with that said, I don't really think that Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good game. This is a great chance to take advantage of a struggling quarterback. And this year in the NFL, rookie quarterbacks haven't been doing good unless your name is Jones and you play for the New England Patriots. So I don't really think that
he hasn't been doing well lately either.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a real struggle for these rookie quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So I mean, like unless Trevor Lawrence did look better last game, but even still, that quick turnaround on a road game for Cincinnati with a
Yeah.
rookie head coach is going to be a real. It's more or less just the Bengals. Just as long as the Bengals don't shoot themselves in the foot, this game they'll. It's the same thing I said about the Steelers game. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot, Bengals. Just
Well,
play execute your plan and you'll win. You'll win.
well,
That's all it is.
that's the problem with Eli Apple starting. Shooting ourselves in the foot is something that very well might happen because that's what he does. So anyway,
that sounds like an uncomfortable thing. Can you imagine shooting yourself in the foot? Shot myself in the foot.
But anyway, like I said, I don't want to go too in depth into this preview because we already previewed the game.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a few thoughts that I had that I kind of wanted to get out there about the injuries. And there will be a little bit more context for this because, like, as you're listening to this, you probably already know the score of the Bengals Jaguars game. So
yeah.
But I just wanted to go over that.
Oh, what a game, man. Oh, my God. Those Bengals made it close, but they pulled out at the end, which, you got to say is something that the Bengals just, wouldn't have done last year. They wouldn't have done the year before that. Like, this is a Bengals team that has got some moxie to it. And maybe we shouldn't be playing the Jaguars that close, but at the same time, the Jaguars also been putting up some points on the board throughout the year. And, you just got to get it done when it matters. That first half was rough, but that defense made the goal line stand, and I think that's just what turned the entire momentum of the game. I think that was a bad call by Urban Meyer to attempt that fourth down and then allow us to get that goal line stand and have some momentum going into halftime. And I felt so betrayed by Evan McPherson in that missed kick. I was just like, we trusted you, no! But then he wins it at the end. And Joe Burrow, what'd you say, 28 for 32 on passing?
25 for 32.
Okay, 25 for 32 on passing. Still pretty good numbers. 300-plus yards, 2 touchdown passes. And then there was the one that Joe Mixon got in. And then he led that drive at the end where, it ended up with a field goal, but it won the game. So, I mean, you got to give it up to these Bengals. They're 3-1 now, and at the end of the day, the win's a win. You don't want to see that that first half, especially at home in primetime. But, pulling it back together for a win, that's the legend of Joe Burrow that we all was hoping we'd see. So, this team is something special, man. I got to give it up to those Bengals. Hooday!
Real quick. So let's go ahead and move on. Talk about what's going on in the fantasy league right now. So this week you got Thomas. You are going up against Ian Plank, who I believe was the second guest we ever had on this podcast. I think Alex Peterman was our first, and then Ian Plank I think was our second, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah, you're going to – he named his team Burrow's left leg, which
You're going down Burrow's left leg.
Don't say that.
Nice.
Don't say that. He needs to keep his leg.
I just wanted to say it. I just wanted to say it because you kept on saying the name last week multiple times, so I had to say this name at least once.
Yeah, well, I mean that. Look, Jan knew what he was doing when he made the name of that team. I'm not entirely sure he thought that one through.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He was like, "Oh, I love watching the podcast this week." Smart dude, helping our ratings.
Okay. Well, you might not want to keep laughing because you were projected to go you did. You won a game.
Yeah, so I won last week. The heck you mean? You thought you came on the podcast last week. You was like, it doesn't look good for you, Thomas, this week.
Well, you know what? It doesn't look good for you again.
You should start Ronald Jones.
I did not. I said you shouldn't start Ronald Jones. Actually,
you did. Tell me not to start Ronald Jones, but I'm going to start Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper been doing his thing for me. I'll call him Alex Hooper. I don't know why he won't call him Alex. He don't look like
you
Austin.
keep calling him Alex Hooper. I don't know, but
because every person that I know named. I'm not going to say that.
See, this week I'm a little worried for you, mainly because of Latavius Murray. Like, I mean, you're already projected to lose, and then like you got Latavius Murray as your like one of your starting running backs. Like
He's going against the. He's going against the. He's. You know what? You know what?
He's going up against the Broncos. Yeah.
Shot in dark. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna bench Latavius Murray for Dimitri Felton.
Wow, yeah, that is a hell of a shot in the dark. You were taking a huge risk there.
All Dimitri Felton had to do is get one touchdown, and I'm that's it. That's all I need him to do is get one touchdown. I'm good.
Dimitri Felton is currently projected to have 0.75 points this week.
All he needs, but he's so explosive, and they have packages for him. They use him when they get close to the end zone. All he needs is one touchdown. And if it's an offensive game, I don't know. Because you got to realize Jarvis Landry's out. I'm going to go with that one. I mean, it might be better to start. I also got Anthony Shorts on my bench. I need to go take some flyers on some other running backs out there right now because there's some good running backs out there.
And probably better options than Dimitri Felton. But
for now, I want to go ahead and take a shot in dark. I think I'm actually going to start. I think I might start Henry Riggs too because Derek Carr's looking hot right now, and I could probably. I'm not sitting Godwin. See, I'm so stacked at receiver, so I'm not sitting Diggs against Houston, and I'm not sitting DK Metcalf because DK Metcalf's the only receiver for Seattle for real. So I'm not sitting Chris Godwin, so I literally can't play Riggs because I got embarrassing riches at receiver. Not to mention I got Devontae Parker too.
Yeah. So, per the current standings, like the statistical standings in the fantasy league right now, the two top teams in the league are my team, the Mixon administration, and Debbie Morgan's team, Debbie's unmatched team. And we're going head to head this week, so we're going to find out who the true number one is right now. Right now, I'm projected to win, but it is like razor thin kind of margins.
Who's a good running back I could pick up?
I'm a little bit worried about Kyler Murray going up against the Rams defense because, the Rams defense is insane. But the problem is I got Kirk Cousins, who is as my backup, who's been pretty good this year from a fantasy perspective, but he's going up against y'all's defense. So I don't really trust him either.
Is Peyton Barber good?
It depends on if Josh Jacobs plays or not. If Josh Jacobs is out again, then Peyton Barber is an excellent play. But if Josh Jacobs plays, then Peyton Barber ain't gonna do shit.
Okay, let's see. Giannario Bernard, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Giovanni Bernard.
I'd rather just play Ronald Jones.
I wouldn't play any member of the Buccaneers running game right now.
Malcolm Brown, no. Carlos Hyde, hell no. Ty Johnson, no.
Remember when Ohio State fans were saying Carlos Hyde's going to be the next great running back in the NFL?
Actually, you remember when Nick Chubb took Carlos Hyde's job?
I actually forgot Carlos Hyde played for the Browns. To be honest,
dude. What's funny was that I remember in preseason everybody was excited about Carlos Hyde, and then I'm not saying he actually didn't play that bad those first couple of weeks. It's just that every single time Nick Chubb got the ball that year, he would just go for 80 yards. Literally what he did. That game against it was the game after Baker Mayfield's first game, Nick Chubb just went off. It's the game that nobody talks about. It's the first game that Nick Chubb went off. He only had 4 or 5 runs, and they were all 60 and 70-yard runs. It was insane. It was insane. That game. Just if y'all want to see a good game, man, that Browns Raiders game, that was Baker's first start. That was a hell of a game. That was actually a fun game to watch, actually.
Interesting right there. Getting back to the fantasy league though, there's 4 undefeated teams left in the league right now, and 2 of them, like I said, me and Debbie are going head to head this week. The other 2, which are Cameron Matthews Renegades and Michael Dorsey. his team hanging with Hernandez are currently projected to lose their matchups. So if I could get this win, I could end up being the last undefeated team left in the league. So,
Michael Dorkey. That's great.
Michael Dorkey. That's what I thought his name was. Just
great.
a real quick commissioner's note, by the way. I just earlier today realized that the league, I only had the league set to having 4 playoff teams, which seems a bit unfair considering we have 14 teams in the league.
Why is it unfair? You know, you gotta be the best. You gotta be the best of the best.
Well, I mean, basically,
with no scrubs in this league.
Right. I mean, it basically like unless you're like one of the best, then your season's going to be over, and it basically. Well, I thought it was a bit unfair. Originally, it was going to be an 8-team league, and that's why it was set as 4 playoff teams. But we had so much interest in the league that I kept having to add teams and add teams and add teams. So I probably should have updated it. I didn't really think about it, but now it is updated. I made it 6 playoff teams, which seems like a good number because I felt like 8 teams would mean more than half of the league gets into the playoffs. And then it kind of seems like it makes the regular season games kind of meaningless because then you as long as you just make it to the playoffs, then then you just do well there. So I think keeping it at 6 teams kind of makes it so that you still need to do well in the regular season to make it to the playoffs in the first place.
6 is a good number. 6 is a good number.
Yeah. So, all right. That pretty much wraps up the outlook on the fantasy league for this week. Then I want to go ahead and move on to the outlook for the AFC North.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun because who we're talking about first this week? We always talk about the Ravens first, right?
We're going to talk about the Ravens first,
awesome.
Because after losing to the Detroit Lions, because fuck you, they lost, and the NFL won't admit it. The Ravens traveled to Denver to play the Broncos this week, which is going to be a true test game for both sides. I think. Are the Ravens really that quality team that went toe-to-toe with the defending AFC champion Chiefs, or are they the sloppy team that lost to the Lions? And okay, so the team that lost to the Raiders, and at the very least, even if you want to dismiss the fact that the play clock went to 0 and stayed there for 2 seconds before they snapped the ball, and Justin Tucker should have never had that 66-yard field goal attempt. At the very least, they needed a miracle sequence of events to beat the Lions. I mean, even if you're counting what happened as a real event, you still had to have Lamar Jackson throw a miracle. What looked like basically, I mean, it wasn't quite a Hail Mary, but it was like a 40-yard pass, just out of nowhere when he was previously playing like shit. And you had to have that. You had to have the Lions just completely collapse out of freaking nowhere in the vein of the 2015 Bengals in the playoffs. And then you had to have Justin Tucker break the all-time NFL record. Nobody in NFL history has ever hit a field goal this long before, but Justin Tucker did it. And so it's just one miracle thing after another that the Ravens needed all of these things to happen at the same time. What was the win probability for the Lions at that point? It had to be 99.99999 something insane, and the Ravens still won. So, barring something like that happening again, the Ravens could drop a game to a terrible team like the Lions. And honestly, I don't looked very good when they looked super sloppy in their loss to the Raiders, and they looked kind of sloppy in their win over the Chiefs. So, are the Ravens really that quality team? Are they really truly a great team? Or, I mean, if so, they'll beat the Broncos. But if not, then they're going to get exposed against the Broncos. And same thing for the Broncos, by the way, because the Broncos, they're all the opponents that they've beaten so far are combined 0-9 right now. And if you look at most power rankings across the league, they're all team number 30, team number 31, and team number 32. So
the Broncos just had an easy schedule.
The Broncos have, allegedly had a super easy schedule, and they look really good right now. But is it possibly because their competition's been so bad. Do you remember Thomas back in 2014 when the Bengals started off 3-0 and it was looking like, these Bengals are something special.
Yeah.
And then, Bill Belichick had that whole famous, we're on the Cincinnati press conference because the Patriots started out badly that year. And then the Bengals basically ran into a New England Patriots buzzsaw. It was terrible. And they went 7-5 and won the rest of the season and got embarrassed by the Colts in the playoffs. Hopefully for the Broncos' sake, they're more legit than those Bengals were. But that's kind of what this is reminding me of right now. It's like, like the Bengals, had a close win against the Ravens in that first game. And then they beat a terrible Titans and a terrible Falcons team the next 2 weeks. Like they beat the shit out of them. But point being, they were like, it's like strength of schedule was kind of like, in question. The Broncos kind of have the feel of a team like that right now.
Well, the Broncos played the Giants, who, we all have our feeling about the Giants.
Giants, Jets, and Lions, right?
Giants, Jaguars, and Jets.
Oh, Jaguars. That's
it don't get that much easier as an opening 3-game schedule than it does that. The thing is though is that they didn't. You gotta give it to them. They beat all these teams handily. They didn't struggle with beating either one of these teams. Teddy Bridgewater, he doesn't look bad right now, I guess. Teddy Bridgewater, he's a capable quarterback. I know I made my jokes by him, but Teddy Bridgewater actually a really good quarterback. He's a very capable quarterback, I should say. He's not a groundbreaking quarterback. He's probably like, if you have him on his team, you probably have the 17th or 18th best quarterback in the league. Or maybe even 15th. Maybe he might get hot this year. Maybe he might have some hot stretches.
Kind of reminds me of 2015 Andy Dalton right now because Teddy Bridgewater's been, again, strength of schedule. You got to take that into account. But Teddy Bridgewater has been kind of more or less playing out of his mind by Teddy.
He been doing things.
Standards.
Well, he only have one more season. If you put the right team around him, he can play well. He did really good with the Saints that year. But going back to the Ravens, though, the team in the AFC North. They've been very sloppy with that ball too, and they've been struggling with away games. So they're playing in Denver. Denver always have one of the loudest crowds in the league. Mile high. I don't know, man. I don't think this is going to be an easy test for the Ravens. I know Denver did play against easy opponents and a cupcake schedule, but they did beat those teams pretty handedly. They did struggle against those teams. They look pretty organized. It's going to be a good game, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos come out on top of this game.
Yep. I'm not sure yet. I will make my prediction when we do the predictions live stream, but right now I'm not entirely sure who I'm going to pick for this game.
Honestly, I'm leaning towards Denver, but I don't know.
Well,
I don't know actually.
I think I'm leaning towards Denver as well because I don't entirely buy the Ravens, but I'm also not entirely sure I buy the Broncos too.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
At least for as good as they looked, it's like I don't know.
We'll see.
But then again,
it's so hard. It's so hard to read these teams.
Saying that, and you could make the argument who have the Bengals beat because like the Vikings are 1-2. They lost to the Bears in like stupid fashion, and then they beat the Steelers, and the Steelers are like straight booty.
I got you. Yeah, they are. They are booty. They're real booty.
Speaking of the Steelers, that's good transition to the other team in the AFC North. It has been a miserable 2 weeks for the Steelers, and things are about to get a whole lot more miserable. Well, okay, not a whole lot more. I think losing to your former punching bag in the Bengals like twice in a row, by the way, one of which was to Ryan Finley.
Hey, does this stink in your house? Because this stinks in my house because they're talking about some trash right now.
Yeah, it smells like a dumpster fire.
Oh my god, it's just horrible.
Disgusting.
That offensive line is just
The offensive line, the quarterback, the secondary. The secondary is straight trash. Like, the defensive line, like I believe TJ Watt's going to be out for another week. So I mean that defensive line without TJ Watt is nothing. even with Melvin Ingram. Like Melvin Ingram played and nothing happened.
Yo, man.
They're going to Green Bay. They're going to Lambeau Field to play the Packers this week.
By the way, I just got to throw a scary thought out there since they playing the Packers, and I just want to talk about this now. I'd rather talk about this now than later. There's been a lot of rumblings about Aaron Rodgers' next team being the Steelers, and we talked about it. We talked about it on a podcast during the offseason. We're like, oh, I can see him. We both said ourselves like, I can really see him going to the Steelers.
Yeah, I can't anymore.
That is my worst fear. Is Aaron Rodgers ended up in the Steelers uniform next year after he leaves the Packers?
I don't see Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers anymore. I said that in the offseason because I thought the Steelers were going to be bad. I didn't realize how bad it was going to be. They're
going to be pretty bad.
It was like everything that I had hoped that the Steelers would turn into is what the Steelers.
They don't have an offensive line. And they don't have an offensive line at all.
There's no way in hell Aaron Rodgers is going to want to go to the Steelers. Like, why would he want to do that? And I think honestly, if the Steelers do go get Aaron Rodgers, Steelers fans aren't going to embrace him because Steelers fans right now are begging for a reset. Steelers fans are begging for them to go get like a young, exciting quarterback in the draft. They go get another old head like Aaron Rodgers. Steelers fans are going to be like, probably kind of pissed off actually.
Well, you're in a division with 3 Heisman winners who are tearing up the league, and your quarterback is aging and he can barely throw the ball down the field without looking like he's trash. I mean, like he's been putting up good yards, but all he's been doing these slant routes and these short throws and everything. So I mean, I don't know. I just think that you need like you said, you need to get another young quarterback. They could have got Mac Jones last year or something. They could have done something. There's a lot of things they could have done last year, and they decided not to do it because they're so prideful. So
because they had a vision that they thought made sense. Because they're going to
draft a running back in the first round.
I think the Steelers just assume that they're going to win in the trenches because they're the Steelers. And so they build their team around the assumption that they're going to win in the trenches. And the problem is, if you don't ensure that fact, then your team isn't going to work because it's based off of thinking that you're going to do well in the trenches.
I mean, honestly, I know I made that video making fun of Josh Thomas as a coach. Josh Thomas is actually a really good coach, so I ain't going to hate on him. But the whole thing is that, the Steelers aren't going to be good this year, man. They about to get smoked by the Packers. And they're playing at Green Bay?
Yeah. So
that's a fun game to watch.
Check this. The rest of their schedule. They travel to Green Bay this week. Then they come home to face the Broncos and Seahawks teams that both have looked really good so far. And that's all before their week 7 bye. After which, they have to travel to Cleveland and play the Browns. Like immediately after their bye. I wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers go 0-4 in their next 4 games. And end up with a 1-6 start to their season. 1-6, that could easily be an 0-7 start if it weren't for like this kind of like miracle set of circumstances against the Bills. And this was after everyone, again, after those miracle set of circumstances against the Bills, everybody crowned them, the Steelers are contenders again because they beat the Bills, not really paying attention to how they beat the Bills, not really paying attention to what the Bills were playing like, but they just assumed the Steelers were back because they happened to beat the Bills in week 1.
They play the Browns on Halloween, dude.
They do.
That's gonna be. You know how many jokes. I'm definitely going to that game. The jokes that are going to be set up for that game. Cleveland's going to, Browns fans are going to have a field day. Yeah. Browns fans are going to have a field day.
Bengals fans would too.
The Browns fans. And then not only that, that's after our Thursday night game. So they're going to have I'm so excited about that game.
After that 0-4, after what I'm thinking could be an 0-4 stretch of games, then they do get the Bears and Lions back to back. So, those could potentially be like games where they get some wins. But then it's 2 road games in Los Angeles and Cincinnati. And we just saw what the Bengals did to them. The Cincinnati game is not a cupcake game for them to circle on their schedule anymore. You got to take that shit seriously now. And, like I said, the other one's a road game in Los Angeles, which is clear across the country, and a very good Rams team. Or is it the Chargers? One of the two. Either way, either Los Angeles team is looking really good right now.
Okay. Here go the question.
Yeah.
How long do you think until Ben Roethlisberger's bench?
I don't think he's going to get benched.
You don't think so?
No, because Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins aren't better.
Yeah.
They're both trash too. So I don't think I think just because they respect Ben Roethlisberger's legacy too much, they're going to let him keep doing what he does. And because they if they had another option, like if they had like a young, talented quarterback who they believe in and want to develop, they wouldn't care about Ben Roethlisberger's legacy. But considering they don't really have anybody, they're probably just going to give it to Ben and let him just keep doing his thing.
Okay.
Especially because you can, I think realistically you have to attribute what's going on with Ben partially to Ben not taking care of himself and not really being prepared for this season and stuff like that. But you could also make the argument that he doesn't have a chance behind that offensive line. So if it's like, if this Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger doesn't stand a chance against behind the offensive line, then who the hell else would? Why would you ever throw in a young quarterback to get murdered behind that line?
No, I mean I'm just asking you because I just don't think this man is gonna make. I don't know if this man is gonna make it through the season or not.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he will.
Okay, so maybe he takes himself out. Maybe he gets hurt or something like that. No, I'm not here to tell you that nothing like that's gonna happen. But I am saying I don't think the Steelers are going to make the decision that if Ben's healthy and if Ben is willing to play, that they're not going to give Ben at least the rest of the season. Now, at the end of the season, they might tell him, hey, thanks for everything, but, it's time to move on, time for us to go find another quarterback. But they're not going to I don't think they're going to do that during the season.
All right. Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see. I don't know if we're going to see Big Ben as the quarterback for the Steelers the entire season.
Well, if that happens, it'll be his own issue rather than the Steelers' issue. Like I said, maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he just decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. I could see both of those things, but I don't see the Steelers benching him. So after they get the Bears and Lions, which, like I said, they could maybe find a win. Probably 2 wins in those Bears and Lions games. So the Steelers can probably beat those teams. Although maybe not. The Bears have kind of been up and down. But the week after that, they host the Baltimore Ravens. Then they travel to Minnesota. Then they come home to face the Titans. Then they go out again to go play the Kansas City Chiefs. Then they come home against the Browns. And then they wrap up the season in Baltimore against the Ravens team that's probably going to be fighting for a playoff spot in that Week 18 game. So from what I'm seeing based on the rest of their schedule, I'm seeing maybe 2 to 5 winnable games left on their schedule based on where they're playing right now, depending on whether they show up in their remaining division games. Right now, I genuinely think 6-11 seems like a generous prediction for them, which I believe was my prediction for them back when the schedule came out. It might have been more like 7-10. I'll have to go back and check. I don't quite remember. But it was around that low mark that I remember you looked at me. You're like, Kyle, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? Do you really think the Steelers are going to be that bad? I'm like, I really think the Steelers are going to be that bad this year.
It's coming to fruition. How do you not think this team? How do you think this team is going to be any glimmer of good this year?
I'm really kind of hoping they do finish on the higher end, though.
So they get better. So they get a worse draft pick because you don't want to draft a quarterback in the draft.
Because that likely means they're going to be drafting somewhere between 8 to 11, which means they're probably going to be in pretty poor position to go get a quarterback. And this quarterback class isn't exactly known for being a great quarterback class. In fact, it's actually a lot of people are saying it's one of the worst quarterback classes to come out in a while. Kind of reminds me of the way people were talking in 2013. And do you remember anybody? You know who I remember from the 2013 draft class?
Geno Smith. That's the first one that came to mind. Was he in that draft class? Did I
He
get
was
the
in
right
that
draft
draft class.
class? Oh, how
but
did I get that right?
do you know who was I believe the only quarterback to be drafted in the first round of that class?
Who was the first? Who was the only quarterback?
EJ Manuel.
Oh,
Remember that diva?
yeah.
The dude who was pointing his fingers at everybody but him for why his career flamed out and just wouldn't shut up about it.
I mean, sometimes it isn't the quarterback's fault, but in that instance, you gotta shut the hell up.
Well,
I mean, like if it's not the quarterback's fault.
The thing is, maybe it's not entirely EJ Manuel's fault, but
Oh
at the
no,
same
no, it was
time,
his fault.
you gotta take some responsibility. And he just didn't want to take any. That
Yeah,
was the problem with him. But the only thing about if the Steelers go like 6-11 and they're picking like at like number 11 or something like that, like I mean, I want to see them get a bad draft pick. But the only thing is, do you know what the Steelers' record was back in 2003, Thomas?
What was the record back in 2003?
2003, the Steelers went 6-10.
And then they drafted Ben Roethlisberger next year.
They drafted Ben Roethlisberger with the number 11 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's like like I'm sitting here rooting for them to have like a mid-round pick, but then last time they had a mid-round pick, they got like a Hall of Fame quarterback out of it. Although I will say that the 2004 NFL draft class was considered to be an exceptional draft for quarterbacks. And looking back at it, you got Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, all Hall of Fame candidates. Like it legitimately was a great draft class looking back at it. Mm-hmm. This upcoming draft class is not considered to be anything of the sort. So it's that's just my one hope, that if the Steelers do end up picking one of those players and like pick 11 or 12 or something like that, that it's not going to turn into another Ben Roethlisberger type situation. Most likely, based on all the scouting and all the players that I've seen so far, they're probably going to go after somebody like Carson Strong from Nevada or Keaton Slovis from USC. Both of whom have some pretty obvious flaws. Strong, like Carson Strong, seems like he'd be the safe guy to go with. But like he's safe but unspectacular. Like, he does good stuff. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot, but he also doesn't have a lot of really particularly special traits. He doesn't do a lot of particularly special things. So for that reason, I don't see Mike Tomlin being interested in him. Doesn't really seem to fit that Mike Tomlin mentality. Keaton Slovis, on the other hand, I think does fit that Mike Tomlin mentality, which would be interesting to see what he does in Pittsburgh, because his biggest problem, Keaton Slovis, like the reason he's not considered to be like the number 1 overall pick or something like that, is because he doesn't really seem to possess the mental processing needed to be a really top tier quarterback. Like, I mean, he seems to like kind of like slowly process things and not really always make the best decisions. And on top of that, he's not really a top tier athlete, and he's got average arm strength. But he's got a lot of different packages, and he reminds you kind of the way Ben Roethlisberger was when he was coming out of. I guess maybe a little bit less athletic than Ben Roethlisberger. But, at least as far as like the way that Ben Roethlisberger is generally operated in the Steelers offense, it seems like Keaton Slovis would be a pretty good fit. But I definitely wouldn't be another Ben Roethlisberger. This would be like, like they like, I think Keaton Slovis is going to be needed to be developed in the NFL. So if the Steelers do go that route, I don't know who the hell they're going to develop him behind.
I don't think the Steelers don't seem like a team that would draft a quarterback if it doesn't the Steelers don't look like a team. The Steelers don't strike me as a team that would draft a quarterback if he doesn't fit.
Well, that's the thing. I think Keaton Slovis does more or less fit what the Steelers kind of do. The problem is, his weaknesses are big weaknesses. Like, he's got the most boom bust potential, I think, in the draft class.
I got you. All
right. We like I said, this is a little bit of a shorter episode than last week because we already did the Bengals preview. So we're I think that's pretty much it for this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. We're about to go do our live predictions segment. So If you listen to this podcast, go check up. If you listen to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something like that, go check our YouTube channel because we do this in video form too through StreamYard. And also we do live broadcasts of various different things. But each week we're doing 2 live broadcasts a week of our predictions where we go through the whole NFL schedule, and me and Thomas basically compete to see who can make the best predictions.
Yep. It's fun. It's fun little thing.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing. And last year in the playoffs, we set a little bet on it. We didn't set a little bet on the regular season this year, but maybe we'll come.
We will.
Playoffs.
We will. We have to come up with anything. Y'all, come on. Y'all go in the comment section. Y'all tell us what we need to do. We'll see. Maybe we might have some people come on our live stream. We can have a little fun little thing going on.
Yeah, just hit me or Thomas up. We're more than happy to have people on live stream. Go find me at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter or Facebook.com/The Phelps. Thomas is at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram. And he's got a YouTube page called the Thomas J Network. Yep. And that's also where you can find him on TikTok. So like I said, just hit us up anywhere. Let us know you want to come on the podcast. We'll be more than happy to have you on, especially now that we're using StreamYard instead of Zoom. We don't have these dumb 30 or 40-minute time limits that you had on Zoom. So if you talk too long, then they're going to cut you off. And that was always a pain in the butt trying to get guests on. But now we don't have that limit anymore. So, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to go check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now. Big thanks to Around the Block for setting us up with all this stuff.
Shout out to y'all, man. Appreciate it.
Check out my writing work with Around the Block. If you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, I've been covering the team through that. Lately, just mainly been doing position grades for each game, but I think I might be doing another article. I got something in mind when I talk about these injuries. If I can get it up in time before the game tomorrow, I think I will. But it's already Wednesday night, so I'm not sure I'll have time to do it. But yeah, definitely worth going and checking all that out. So, but anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. That's gonna do it for us tonight. So I'll give y'all with a Who Dey.
Go Brown.